What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. If you guys are new here, please consider subscribing. Today's video, I'm going to do a quick unboxing of this plasma cutter. This one here is the CUT55 Prolux by ARCCAPTAIN, and it has several features including a rust removal. It also has Bluetooth, so you can pair it onto your phone. So a huge thanks to ARCCAPTAIN for sponsoring today's video. They have amazing deals on plasma cutters, welding machines, and accessories. So I'll be sure to leave their links down in the description box so you guys can check them out, as well as a discount code so you guys can save a little extra. So let's go ahead and get started with the unboxing. Just wanted to give you guys a quick close-up. Here's the machine, surrounded by some foam insulation. Very nice and sturdy. The machine itself is kind of small in size, but here's the plug. This is a 240 volt plug. Everything should be inside the accessory box right here. So let's go ahead and continue with the unbox. So everything that was inside the box is now on top of this table. So we'll go ahead and get started by taking a look at the plasma cutter. And again, this is the CUT55 Prolux by ARCCAPTAIN. And check out the size, just very small in size, one palm width, and doesn't weigh that much either. It's pretty lightweight, which I noticed because they included a shoulder strap, so you can, I guess, take it on the go, a carrying case. But very small in size. It is connected to a 240 volt plug, which is pretty respectable power. Can offer up to 55 amps, which, like I said, they also include an adapter which reduces from the 240 volt plug to a 120 volt, which can connect to any regular outlet. And here's some stickers you can paste onto your plasma cutter, welding machine, toolbox, whatever. But most importantly, the user manual. A lot of information comes from here. Over here we have the plasma torch and some little fittings here, accessories. This is 10-foot length, as well as the ground clamp. Here's the ground clamp, very nice. 10-foot length, and there's your connection. Other than that, this here is an air hose. This is a 1/4 inch nylon braided, and they also sent some clamps, but we're not going to use this. This is not for this machine. This is the CUT55, so this one already comes included with the air fitting regulator back here, which you can regulate. It doesn't have a gauge back here, but it is LED, so it reads the PSI here, as well as the connection, whether you're using 120 volt or 240. There's some trigger settings, the 2T, 4T, or if you're cutting mesh or rust removal. Has several settings on this machine. And right here down below we have the connection for the ground, the plasma torch, and I believe the triggers. But pretty nice machine. Let's go ahead and get started by setting it up, which should be very easy. The air supply is right here, the air hose. Just connect the air hose. I'm going to use the adapter to begin with. We'll connect it to 120 volt right there, and we'll start cutting some small thin metal. So here's a plasma torch, very nice. And at the other end, you have your connection that connects onto your cutter. So one is the air supply, another one is for the trigger, and then you have another wire for the pilot arc, which this one you could just squeeze the trigger and it'll blow the torch. So let's go ahead and connect these. So down here is for the plasma torch, the pilot arc, and the trigger. Okay, so everything is connected. The plasma torch, the ground clamp, the trigger, the pilot, the air supply is plugged in, and the power is plugged in. So last thing to do is just remove this sticker, I guess. There it is, and now let's start it. Okay, I have everything connected. Right here on the display you'll see 20 amps, which is the lowest that we can go, and that is at 120 volt. But we can turn up the machine as high as 35 amps. If you connect the machine at 240 volt, you can go as high as 55 amps. So this machine can cut all the way up to 22 millimeter in thickness, which is about 3/4 of an inch, so something like that. But right now we have it connected at 120 volts. I'm going to have it at 20 amps. This is the PSI. I have it at 61 PSI. We have the regulator just behind the machine. But I do have a 25-foot hose. So as soon as I hit the plasma torch, the pressure slightly reduces to about 55 while cutting. So that's more or less what you want to have it at 120 volts. We have the trigger settings, 2T or 4T on the torch, and then this one can also cut just regular steel. It can cut mesh, and it could also do a rust removal from steel. So right now we're going to go ahead and just use the plasma torch at 25 amps, and I'm also using a welding helmet by ARCCAPTAIN. This is the 4 sensor with the large screen, but I have the settings set at CUT, so just to use the shield. Calibration, I'm gonna call it. I was fine-tuning the machine. This is purling in 14 gauge. It's a very good steel to begin cutting. Here's the plasma torch. Right now I'm using the wire guide right here just to kind of separate the distance. And check it out, there's like a little safety right here in case it falls. It doesn't accidentally hit the trigger or anything like that. Very smart. So let's go ahead and cut some just weird shapes, nothing specific. Just see how the machine cuts. Stays on for a few seconds, which I believe it can be adjusted. But there's the cut. Very nice and clean. I'm a new plasma cutter-ition. This is my first time owning a plasma cutter, and wow, I am just... This is awesome though. This is the first one I cut. Whew. Oh yeah, they're both hot. Alright, check that out. Not too bad for the first cut. Again, this is 14 gauge. I was using the speed square just to, and the little wire guide for the distance. But check this out. Woo! Damn, that's the ARCCAPTAIN CUT55 Prolux. We're gonna get some thicker steel, cut that. This right here is 11 gauge. We're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna get the speed square and just square off this square tubing. This is, I believe, 3x3. But just gonna square this section off just to see how well it does on 11 gauge, and then we'll move up. I'm also going to turn up the amps to about 30. That should be good. We're also going to put the ground clamp in the back. Okay. That's good. Okay, I don't know how well I got to record that, but here's the piece that I cut. Again, this is 11 gauge. There's the line. This was the one with the grinders, so I did these 3. Not too shabby, but it cut. All that slack could just be easily removed with the file. Maybe a soft grinder with the flap disc cleans it up, but the majority, I think I was going just a little bit too slow. But that's me, I'm just barely learning. So let's go ahead and move on up to some 1/4 inch steel. Okay, so here I have a piece of steel. This is a 1/4 inch. It's pretty rusty, which is also going to help us with the rust removal, so we can try it out. But this right here is 1/4 inch plate. And I have a caliper right here, which is zeroed out, and it is in inches. So we check the thickness. This is 0.25, very close. This over here is also a 1/4 inch. So if we check this thickness right here, it's almost 1/2 inch in thickness. So we'll also be able to cut this in half as well. But I'm gonna go ahead and just set this up right here, cut through the 1/4 inch plate. And then we might even stack 3/4 inch. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to turn up the amps all the way to 35, which is max on 120 volts. And I'm going to keep the same PSI. So right here I have the steel set up. I have the ground clamp. And I'm going to cut the 1/4 inch plate. So this little bracket. Alright, check it out. Very nice cut. Still hot. So right here, it's still very nice. I don't know if I needed just a little bit more air pressure, or maybe it was my angle that was offset, because it's on this side a little bit as well. But the cut is very clean. 1/4 inch, that's at 35 amps, 62 air pressure. I could have done maybe like a little bit more air pressure, or maybe it's time to take the 1/4 inch to the 220 volts, 240 volts, and turn up the amperage. So, which is probably the next thing that we're gonna do. It is getting pretty late, so I'll probably do the 240 volts in the morning. But right now I'm pretty impressed the way this plasma cutter is cutting. Look at that, just amazing. But this is the CUT55 Prolux, doing very, very good. Okay guys, another day, and I have the plasma cutter connected onto a 240 plug, and I have the air supply connected onto the back. I went ahead and turned up the PSI just a bit to about 75. Once you hit the trigger, it'll reduce a few pounds. but from 35 to 55 amps, it requires about 70 psi. Since we are connected to a 240 plug, now the amps can go as low as 20 amps and can go as high as 55 amps. So 55 amps is enough to cut, half an inch, all the way up to about 3/4 of an inch. So right now I'm gonna go ahead and put it back at 40 and check it out. I have a sheet, it's almost a full sheet of 1/4 inch, which I already marked the line where I want to cut it. This right here is a 2 foot by 4 foot section, which on the next video I'm going to use that to create a welding table, which I already have some square tubing in 11 gauge, which should be for the legs and bracing. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and just do a few more cuts on this one. There's 2 1/4 inch plates right here, which makes it half an inch, so we're going to try to cut that. And we might even pile one more 1/4 inch, see if we could do 3/4 of an inch, and just try to do a quick cut. But other than that, the ultimate just cut for today is just going to be that 4 foot line. I don't know if do it all in one pass or maybe just halfway and then do the other half. This here has a duty cycle of about 60%. So let's say if you use it about 6 minutes, you got to let it rest for about 4. So roughly, and yeah, let's go ahead and get to cutting. I'm gonna go ahead and just start working on this one. Very straight line. Alright guys, check it out. Half an inch, like it was nothing. There's that piece right there, that slag. That line is very nice and clean. And check out the machine. The machine, I have it at 45 amps and 70 psi. And that's right here at half an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and pile up one more 1/4 inch plate on top of this, making it 3/4 of an inch right here. I'm going to turn up the amps to 55, which is max, and that should have no problem cutting right here. Okay, so here I have 3 1/4 inch plates just stacked up. I have a caliper which we will zero out. It is in inches, and if we check the thickness right here, it's 0.730, so it's almost 3/4 of an inch. And as far as the plasma cutter, I'm going to turn up the amps all the way up to 55 amps, and the PSI I'll keep it at 70 PSI. And just take it easy right here. I'm gonna go ahead and just cut a corner and see how it does on 3/4 of an inch. Okay, check that out. That was 3/4 inch plates, and they weren't welded together, so they kind of fell, differently. But if it was a solid piece, it would have definitely go through. It did do the cut on 3/4 of an inch on 55 amps, and the bottom is just a little bit of slag, which can be cleaned up, but very good. Also just grab a hammer, clean off the slag. Look how much cleaner that looks. Okay, so right here on the button that says mode, if we click it once, it'll switch to mesh cut. And if we hit it again, you'll see that little icon. That is the rust removal, and it'll bring the amps down to 35 amps. Now you can do this in 240 volts, or you can do this in 120 volts, but 35 amps, so it can't go up or down. I'm gonna keep the 70 psi and try it like that. Okay, I took off the wire guide, so I'm gonna use the open torch, and I'm gonna try this section right here, which is pretty rusted. Okay. Can definitely cut. Okay, so here was a real quick test with the rust removal. I took off the little wire guide right here, and I was using the torch by itself. So if you get too close, it will definitely do a little dents. Just blowing the torch at it is where you can remove the rust. If you get too close, it's basically like cutting like a torch. So just by blowing the torch at it, it looks like it cleans it. It's definitely clean. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to try it a little bit more, and just at a little bit of a distance. This was the piece that we cut several times. Here was the 1/4 inch cut. Very nice and clean. 1/2 inch, which is 2 1/4 inch plates, but that's the 1/2 inch. Very nice and clean as well. And then over here is 3/4 inch. So, and the rust removal. The rust removal, all it takes is a little practice. If you get too close, it will, eat up on the metal, or it will cut. But just, blow torch, it will kind of resurface the top layer of the metal, removing all the rust, and it definitely cleans it up. So that rust removal feature is pretty handy. So the last and final thing that I want to do before I close this video is just cut this sheet, just across, so that I can have this ready for, the next video, making the welding table. Okay, so here's the sheet that I just cut. This is a 1/4 inch, so now we have a 2 feet by 4 feet. And this is going to be the tabletop for my welding table. Here's some of the square tubing that I'll be welding. These are in 2 by 2 in a 11 gauge thickness, so almost 50 feet. But here's the tabletop, and did a pretty decent job. The machine cut pretty good. I myself Skipped a few beats here or there, but other than that, this little slag that you see, you just usually break it off, and you see that the cut is pretty straight. Same thing for the back. There's a little bit of slag. Oh, that's a lot of noise. But just break it off or with the grinder, but very decent job. So that's going to be for the next video, just welding doing a welding table. So coming back to the plasma cutter, if you guys are interested in one of these are starting at $169. ARCCAPTAIN has amazing deals on a lot of their machines, either plasma cutters or welding machines. Here's another machine that I have from the same company, and I highly recommend it as well. I like this one. This one is a multi-process welder, so not only is it a MIG welder, it could also do TIG weld and also do arc weld, and it has an attachment for a spool gun as well. Just an awesome machine, way cheaper than the high-end machines out in the market right now, and these two combined pair just beautifully. You need to cut something. This one can cut all the way to 3/4 of an inch, which is insane for such a tiny machine. Very powerful. And then we have the welding machine, which is just amazing. I do have the shielding gas, which is the C25 that I use for the MIG gun, but highly recommend. If you guys are interested in any type of welding machines, check out ARCCAPTAIN. And remember to use code GT's Performance so you guys can save a little extra. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. It's been a long day. Stay tuned to the channel, subscribe if you haven't already. Next video I'll be making my own welding table, which is, you already know the size, it's 2 feet by 4 feet, and then it's going to be 3 feet tall. It's just pretty good size, so you can work on something while standing, maybe even put a bench or a chair. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.